Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of From There to Here. I'm your host, Lawrence Temple. And today we have Chef Charles Mallory. I don't like to say a lot in the way of introductions and things with my guests because I like them to talk about what they do and who they are as we go along. But from his title, obviously, Chef Mallory works in the culinary world. And we're going to talk about his journey from the beginning to where he is now and all kind of other things. All right. And so if he's like the other guests we've had from the culinary world, they wear more hats than just simply being over a stove. So we're going to be talking about those things. All right. So, Chef, how are you?
I'm doing great. I am doing awesome. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Absolutely. Now, I told you I'll let you cheat. And I said there's one question I do tell you up beforehand before we start. I asked you if you had to have an elevator speech where you stepped on the elevator, you had to explain or describe who you were in just a few seconds, which is not fair. But how would you describe yourself if you only had those few seconds on the elevator? What would you say?
I would say I'm name is Chef Charles Mallory. I'm a classically trained chef, goal-oriented, family-oriented, and like to continue just to learn. That's basically me.
Now, and every time someone answers that question, they always say different words that I like to jump on. You said classically trained. Can you explain what that means to our audience?
So when we talk about classically trained, we're looking at it from the French term. The French basically, started the culinary, as we know it.
Okay.
The brigades are, all the different positions that are on a line.
Okay.
The different type of cuisines. I mean, the French what started it. So my training is through a culinary school, and pretty much most of the chefs that were there were all French.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but I'm picking up terms already I didn't know. The show's called From There to Here. So kind of how you got from A to B is kind of the whole crux of the show. When you were a little kid, elementary school, did you foresee the things that you are doing and have done in your career? Is that something that you even saw back from being a little kid?
At the time, no, but I think, as I've gotten older and I look back, I'm like, yeah, this was the path. This is where I was going to be heading. I was a probably, kid that was growing up, and I was part of that group, which was called the latchkey kids.
Okay.
Basically, when you come home from school, you would get home, no one would be there. You just make sure you lock those doors.
Yep.
And for the most part, when I got home, I was trying to find something to eat. And so my mom, I was single parent, so my mom, it was just me and her. So for the most part, when I arrived home, she usually would be at work. Some days she would have something already set there for me to eat, but for the most part, I kind of took the initiative to really start to learn how to cook. And
Okay.
so this was at a very, very early age.
Okay. Okay. That
Mhm.
it's interesting how the way in our modern time, the way we look back and modern people would look back at being a latchkey kid or single parent, and that's labeled as a kind of difficulty, but it sounds like that kind of helped to shape you into what you're doing today.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, we didn't have games and consoles and all these things that they have now. So you basically had to find ways of entertaining yourself. Of course, you could watch television, but so experimenting in the kitchen was one of those big things for me.
Okay. Were you the cook did you, besides cooking for yourself at that young age, were you cooking for mom and you as well? Or was it just kind of for
Eventually,
you?
yeah. Well, once I started, to learn, you start off basic stuff, you making eggs and sandwiches and things of that nature, and then
Mm-hmm.
you start moving on to other things. So my mom showed me a lot of things. My mom was in the food service industry for over 45 years.
Okay.
So during that period of time, she was working long hours and but also she was able to show me a lot of things. So I take a, she gets a lot of credit for what I know.
I got okay, and we know Miss Helen, so 100%.
Yes, yes.
Um, how did you make the transition or the decision for feeling like, hey, I want to make this my job or career? How did where did that idea come into play?
Wow. There was there was a process like everything else. It wasn't anything I really thought about. I know I wanted to be in the hospitality industry. So this is late 80s,
Okay.
very early 90s. And, of course, this is before internet, right? So, travel agencies would was something that I'd liked in regards to, being able to plan a trip for an individual or for yourself.
Okay.
And as I got into the field, it started to change like right before my eyes because the internet started to come into play, and
Mhm.
people started planning their own trips. And
Okay.
so I think my first year in college, that was a course that I took. And once I got out of the course, people were saying, well, wow, you're not going to be able to get a job. I'm like, what you mean by that? And then, that that whole, the internet. And I'm like, what is the internet? And, so it branched from there.
Okay.
Um, I think after I graduated from Bethune-Cookman State, which is well, at that time was Daytona Beach Community College,
Yeah.
I transferred from there and transferred over to Bethune. Once I finished at Bethune, my first job was with I was MIT, which was a manager in training. So as you know, Schoolway Cafe is the company that feeds all of Volusia County's schools,
Mm-hmm.
uh, elementary, middle school, high school. And as I got into that, I was like, yes, I want to do food, but not at this level.
Okay.
Right. So, I continued to work, and I was sitting home one day and I'm watching television, and a commercial came on for Le Cordon Bleu, and it hit me. It hit me hard. It like, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do
Okay.
because like I said, it's been a path, and you're not really paying attention to it. So as I was in college, I went through hospitality management program. You did both. You did the front of the, I mean, not front of the house, but the hotel motel, and you also did. So it wasn't separated. It wasn't just a culinary field. So you
Okay.
did a little bit of everything, and that gave you an idea of you may choose whatever path you wanted to choose. So I wanted to do a little bit more. I just didn't know how to get that in that direction. And I saw that commercial. I said, that's it. When I was in college at Bethune, I had friends and they would come over and I would cook for them. And, you would see their face light up and, everybody's having fun and we're eating. And so I love that atmosphere. And so I saw that commercial and I was like, okay, this is it. This is what I want to do. And it was just a point of just, okay, how do I get enrolled? What do I need to do? So I ended up going over to this school was over in Orlando, and the
Mm-hmm.
name of the school was called Orlando Culinary Academy. So once I got over there, and it just so happens I went to talk with the person that was in charge of registration and registering students, but also counseling them in regards before they made that step. And it just so happened to be my instructor at Bethune-Cookman. So when he saw me,
Okay.
he was, yes, this guy right here, this is the student that you need. This is the model student. If I had to say, you were the poster boy of this would be him. I was like, wow, okay. That was a big compliment.
Yeah.
So that's where it started. That's where it started. So the program was a 15-month program. So they had a 2-year program and then they had a 15-month program.
Mm-hmm.
My thing was, okay, I already had a degree. I've been, cooking and doing other things, but to go into culinary school, the biggest thing I wanted to do is I wanted to be a well-rounded chef. I wanted to be able to do not just savory food. I wanted to do desserts. I wanted the whole gamut.
Okay.
And because I know some chefs now, they're very good savory cooks. They can't bake. And so I'm like, I didn't want to be that chef. So
Mm.
my thing was, getting in, learning, you learn sauces and how to make stocks and, just everything, you get, hands on. So, and this particular program that I was in, I say it was a 15-month program. You were in each individual class for 3 weeks and 3 weeks only. So it was an accelerated program.
Okay.
But again, that's what I wanted because I didn't have 2 years to spend back in school.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Uh, well, now, let me, this is kind of a non-cooking question, more of a life question. Sometimes people have a desire to do a career or a career change, but there's school involved, and they say, "Well, gosh, I've been to school already," or "I don't have, I don't want to invest that much of my time, such and such." How did you make the decision to invest that school time? Because sometimes people let that be the thing that stops them. Why were you okay even giving another 15 months of your life to what you wanted?
I have to give credit to my wife. When I told her this is what I wanted to do, and I knew that, of course, I had to go to school. I needed to work also. And she's like, no, you just go to school,
Wow.
take that time, do what you need to do. I'll handle what needs to be handled. And, of course, I'm when I get home, I'm going to do, what's necessary and other things also, working. But she gave me that opportunity to do that much. So I was able to travel. The place was in Orlando, so
Okay.
I was in 5 day everyday drive. You had to be class started at 7 a.m., which means I had to leave from Daytona at least by 5 a.m. in order to be there on time.
Okay.
And they didn't play in regards to being on time and attendance. And I was fine with that because I try to, I'm a pretty prompt person. So when I got there, my uniform was pressed, and I come in. And so my first class, the guy was one of the chef that was teaching this course. He was like, "Were you in the military?" I was like, "No, sir." He's like, "Well, I love, your uniform because it's pressed." I mean, he pointed at one of the kids, like, "You see, this guy right here, his uniform was wrinkled." And I'm like, okay. But that was just, she gave me an opportunity to do that and just focus on that. And for that, I'm thankful.
Okay. I'm glad I asked that question. I didn't know that. I love that answer.
Yeah,
Um, because that's my experience in doing this show is every successful person has somebody or more than one somebody who helped them along the way. Spouse, mother, brother, friend, employee who took a shine to something. So I'm glad you shared that.
definitely, definitely.
Now, in the role of being a chef in general, I'm leaving the timeline for a moment, talking kind of generally. We know if you're a chef, let's back up. Could you
Yeah,
talk to us about what a chef does? Like I remember watching movies like Goodfellas, and there's a scene where they cut through the kitchen and you see the chef and all this kind of stuff, but nobody knows what they do. Can you tell us what are the different roles of what people do in a big kitchen where there's a chef and we see all the characters in movies. What happens back in that kitchen on an actual night?
chaos,
Yeah. Okay.
controlled chaos.
Okay.
But the job, of a chef is a leader, and they wear many hats. So you take care of the schedule. You do a lot of counseling, because you have different personalities, so you have to work with those individuals. Everybody has a button that you can push or you can't push.
Okay.
Right. So you're ordering food. You're making sure that the food that we do have that we're preparing, that it goes out, and not only does it taste the way it's supposed to taste, but it looks, what it looks like. I can recall being working. This was a while back now, but I worked at a Waffle House. So of course, there's pictures for everything. So if you would have sometimes you would have people that would come and they was like, I want the food to look like the picture. All right. So if you're doing fine dining, of course, there are no pictures.
Yeah.
So so
Okay.
You know, so it's basically you kind of, you know, using your imagination, and or you've already seen this dish, so you know what it's supposed to look like. But
Okay.
that, you know, as a chef, you know, you want to make sure that everything goes out. Consistency, you know, that's the big thing. You know, you want everything to be, um, you know, if a customer comes in or a guest comes in, they had this particular meal, you know, you want them to have that same exact meal the next time they came in, you know, prepared the same way. So as a chef, you know, that's your responsibility. Granted, you know, you have people that work under you, and they probably will be the ones to do the job,
Okay.
but you know, you have to make sure that you have that consistency, you know, throughout, um, you know, the place that you're working at.
Now I'm going falling back on all the movies and stereotypes of kitchens that we see in whatever Ratatouille and movies and stuff. So in those movies, you know, that everyone's cooking, the chef is going by, he's sampling what people are saying, say, no, that needs more salt, no, you fool, more sugar, whatever. Is it like that, or do you have in the course of your time of a night, are you sampling what you know the different people are making? Is that part of what a chef actually does?
Certain things you're going to sample. If you have sauces, you know, and those sauces, you know, you're going to pre-make those sauces. Sometimes you have sauces that are going to be made in the pan, but some places they'll pre-make their sauces. So you definitely want to sample that stuff before. And we have what's called hazard, which is hazardous. You want to make sure that everything is checked. You want to check the temperature on all your items.
Okay.
And so with that, sometimes you will sample certain things to see, you know, if the flavor profile, you know, this is what it's supposed to taste like, if it tastes that way. So yes, it's very true. Yeah, you want to make sure you're tasting your food before it goes out. But then, like I said, you're not tasting everything. But you know, for the most part, you know, that stereotype is definitely it isn't a stereotype.
Okay. All right. Now, as you mentioned, being as a part of your role is being a leader, working with people, and I often ask this of people who are in leadership in their jobs. Can you talk to me about some of the keys you found in working with people, whether it's customers and guests, or whether it's you know, your fellow employees and staff? What are some of the keys that you found that help you to be successful working with human beings?
I think one of the big things that I've learned, and this was early on, you know, you want to take whatever criticism as you know, positive feedback. You don't want to get upset every time someone says something, you know, whether it be, you know, for your service, whether it be, you know, the food itself.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you want to take that and you want to try to improve upon, you know, what they're speaking about. Um, that's a big thing for me. And like I said, I learned that early on. I learned that with just working in the industry. And then I've had, you know, good managers and I've had bad managers, but you can learn from both.
Okay.
So yeah, so you know, and that has helped me to mold, you know, my style of how I, you know, deal and talk with people. So again, like I said, all your employees, you know, they're different. You know, you have to treat them as such. You know, and I think with being in the kitchen, that was probably the closest thing I could get back to being in sports. I was an athlete in high school and a little bit in college, and so I understood and also coached. So I
Okay.
understood, you know, everybody is different. And so you have to treat them like that, you know. And so sometimes, you know, you get the most out of people, I think, you know, when you treat them how they want to be treated.
Okay. Got
Yeah.
it. Can you go back when I left the chronology? You were you were finishing school at in Orlando. Where did your culinary path take you once you finished that?
So when I finished that Orlando Culinary Academy, I got my first job right here in Daytona at the International Speedway. And so I worked for a company called AmeriCrown. So AmeriCrown handled all the food for the different tracks. They had about like I think they had 6 tracks that they did all the food for.
Okay.
So, well, of course, you have your basic food that they usually have, the burgers and the hot dogs and things of that nature. I worked in the infield in one of the buildings, and so for the most part, I was doing meals for the owners of those teams,
Okay.
even some of the drivers. So their food was a lot different. So it was more
Okay.
upscale. So that was my first job. I'm trying to think. I worked for them for I think 5 years, and I mean I learned so much, so much. I think the first race that I had was the Pepsi 400, and my head chef at that time came to me and he was like, Charles, I need to talk to you. So I thought it was something I had done. So we go in the office and we sit down and we talk. And he was like, look, he said, I need you to take care of one of the entertainers that they have here. I just need you to be one-on-one with them. Just take care of their food. Just handle whatever they have going on. He said, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time for this. And I was like, okay. I said, okay, chef. I was like, so who is this? And he said, it's Priscilla Presley, her and her band. I need you to take care of them. And I'm like, it's Priscilla Presley. Now, granted, I'm old enough to understand and know who this individual is.
Yeah.
Um, she was a vegan. And so that was one part that he didn't want to deal with. And so, but she was vegan, but her band, they ate any and everything.
Okay.
Right. So you're basically preparing two meals each time. So they performed during the race and also after the race, but they were there for the whole week.
Okay. Oh,
Right. So it was just me, one-on-one, cooking and, bringing them their food throughout that week. So that was a great experience. That was my first experience of actually, cooking for someone famous. And, that's been kind of a theme for me as I've progressed in my career.
is it, it sounds obvious, but what is the difference in working with, I hate to say important, but well-known upscale people, I guess. What's the difference between cooking, working with them, as opposed to working in situations where it's the general public?
I mean, for me, I'm trying to do the same for everybody. I'm trying to cook at a high level for everyone. So I try not to separate it. But of course, you want to make sure that you're doing well. You want to make sure that you're handling, taking care of these individuals because, sometimes they can make or break you. If you do something, not good, they can definitely, put that word out on you. And if you do something good, they can do the same thing. So, so I'm trying to cook at the highest level each and every time. But it's everybody's perspective of you, I guess, individually.
Gotcha. Okay. And it's obvious that NASCAR experience was a seminal building block for your professional future.
Yes.
When did or how did you branch into situations that were your thing, where you were the boss, I guess, or your own projects? Where has that factored into your path?
Okay. So once I left from NASCAR, I put together a catering business. And so the name of the business is called Blue Chip Catering. And I actually that's what I'm doing now full time. So we're
Okay.
located over in Ormond Beach, 341 Parquet Drive. And for the most part, I was catering, and I did a dinner at was an attorney's home here locally. And it just so happened that Vince Carter's mom and her husband at the time was there. And so at the end of the meal, the host brought me out and introduced me to everybody and her also. And when I spoke with Dr. Carter, she
Mhm.
was saying, yes, me and my son were looking to start a restaurant here in Daytona. And I was like, really? And she was like,
Mm-hmm.
yes, looking to build it on LPGA. And I was like, wow. And she said, would you be interested in interviewing? She said, I have a chef right now. I'm looking to add, at least 2 more chefs. And she said, I would love, she said, the meal was awesome. She said, I would love to, just bring you in and have you speak with the
Mm-hmm.
restaurant manager. And granted, this is before the building was put up. This was for, it was a lot of stuff that had not been done yet. And so a couple of days later, I got a call from her and she said, look, I want you to come in and speak with our restaurant manager. So I did that. We interviewed, hit it off. And I was hired a couple of weeks later. And my job was to help with starting the menu for the restaurant.
Okay.
So it was me and another local chef, Chef Tom Papa. He owns a restaurant over on Beach Street, but he was a local caterer at that time. And so, we sat down and, we went over a lot of things. I mean, he had already started the menu. It was just me, we collaborating and going back and forth. And so
Mm-hmm.
it was a great time. I mean, that was, granted, it was an awesome time at that restaurant, but that, it's always, you start in the beginning of something, the infancy of things, you have a lot of fun and just, sitting down and, putting that menu together and then going in the test kitchen and, trying all these different new recipes and things of that nature. I mean, I don't know if you had an opportunity to go to the restaurant. It was a pretty
Yeah.
big menu. Yeah, it was a pretty big menu. So, because it was 3 different dining experiences. There was a piano bar,
Mm-hmm.
there was a sports bar, and then you had a fine dining area, and then there was also a VIP area that
Mm-hmm.
was kind of closed off. So, so that's kind of where I started with. That was my first chef's job, far as as a head chef. That was
Okay.
my first. That was my first job out of culinary school. So after NASCAR. So that was awesome. It was an awesome time.
Gotcha. Wow. It's just like a continual elevation and like more and more responsibility and things like that.
Right, right.
Can you talk about the business, or I guess I want to say the non-cooking aspects of your job as a chef? I know you mentioned ordering, and I'm sure there's finances and things like that that you have to be in charge of. So can you talk about the parts of your job that are not directly cooking or directly kitchen stuff?
So you want to make sure the kitchen is clean. You do have the health inspector that will come in, and it's not like they call and say, "Hey, we're heading in." It's like they'll pop up at any and every time. So you want to be set up for success each and every time. So as a head chef, I mean, I did a lot of walking around and looking at stuff and just making sure that we're in compliance. Each and every time, every day, so that when they do come, you're not scrambling to try to get ready. You're already ready.
Yeah.
Um, I guess then you do a lot of like I said, a lot of just talking with your employees. You have some that come in, they may have issues, and it may not be with the job. It may be something that's outside of that. If they feel
Okay.
comfortable enough to come in and talk to you, always had an open door policy. You could come in and talk to me about anything, and it's going to stay, right here.
Okay.
And I kind of kept that along, as I've moved on in my career, that open door policy.
Okay. Let me see that. Well, and we have about 10 minutes left on my
Okay.
timer, which is perfect because there was a second question that I pretty much ask every guest, which is, let's say you had a friend who knows how successful you are, and they say, "Hey, I have a son or daughter who's 18. They're about to graduate high school. They're a great kid. They've done all the right things in school. They're not quite sure what they want to be, what they want to do with their life. And you're successful, so I would like you to take them to lunch or whatever and just talk to them, and maybe your conversation can help them figure their path." If you were talking to little Billy or Sally, what kind of advice would you give a young person who's trying to figure out what they want to be or do, whether it's culinary or anything else? What would some of your advice be to that young person?
Well, I would ask them what are some of the things that you like, or you have any hobbies that that you have. And then kind of, go from there. I think the biggest thing that I see, and I taught at Bethune-Cookman after I left from Vince Carter's. I taught there for 6 years as a instructor. And the thing that I saw the most out of the students that were coming in,
Mm-hmm.
they want to excel to the top very quickly. And it's a stepping stone. I mean, you gotta go through some things before you get to where you're at. They kind of want to get that degree, and okay, I want to run this place, and it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So just putting things down that's realistic in regards to speaking and talking with them, and I always wish that I had a mentor in this thing. I've kind of had to figure it out myself. There's I know of a lot of Black chefs now, but at the time when I was contemplating this and trying to think of, how to go about this, I didn't have anybody to go to and to
Okay.
speak and talk with. So mentorship is I think is very important. But going back to your question, yeah, I would sit down and just talk with them to feel out some of the things that they like and things that they're interested in, to try to figure out a path on how to get there. Because a lot of times, we have goals and we like, yeah, this is what I want to do, but what's the path to getting there? How do you what do you have to do? And so even with what I do, there was a path. I didn't know how to get there. But once I got in culinary school, and you're in that element and you're in it all the time, you tend to, okay, this is what I need to do. Then the next step, this is what I need to do. So, I kind of figured it out, but it doesn't always work that way. So you need someone to talk with and, mentor in whatever, profession you're looking to go in.
Now, Chef, when we were offline on the phone, you talked to me about some of the, I hate this term, but the high end or kind of celebrity type realms you've had some opportunities to cook for. Could you talk to us about some of those experiences and what that was like cooking for kind of the beautiful people, I guess we'll call it.
Okay. So one event, when I've done a lot, but the biggest one that I remember and very fond of, we did a re-election dinner, campaign dinner for President Barack Obama. And this was back in 2012 when I was working with Vince Carter's restaurant. And that dinner was held at Vince Carter's home in Orlando. This was also All-Star Weekend, and that was in Orlando also. So there were a lot of people there. And just talking with Vince, he was telling me, that was the most people he's ever had in his home at one time.
Okay.
And he has a pretty big house. So.
Okay. What was it like being were you starstruck seeing all these, big shots around? What was that like professionally and then just as a human being?
Not really. And I'm saying that because, just working for NASCAR, I kind of was around a lot of different people. Not only just you have the drivers there, but there were a lot of other people that would come, celebrities and things of that nature. Michael Jordan, to name a few. He owned a motorcycle club, a company rather. Mm-hmm. So he, raced and he would come and show up. So you would see him a lot at the track. So not really, but it's just always great to see these people, instead of seeing them on television.
That's it.
All right.
Do you find working with them or, satisfying their taste, is it that much more difficult or different than that of the general public?
For some, you have those that, are kind of picky. And so you want to make sure you understand that, and some of their likes and their dislikes. And so, we had an idea of some of the people that were going to be coming. So I mean, it's, and they knew what the menu was going to be. So it was, if you didn't like certain things, I guess they didn't really, were going to try. But the dinner was, it was a $30,000 a plate meal.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of things that went on before, that night even went off. So, dealing with the Secret Service for weeks and to secure the location, along with staff having, background checks on them. And, when you get background checks from the Secret Service, that's pretty thorough.
Okay.
You want to take your best people with you. And in some instances I was able to, and some I weren't, because I have some people that had some things that the Secret Service said, well, no, they can't be around or in the vicinity of the president.
Okay.
And I mean, you'll find that, you'll find things like that anywhere. But
right.
But just just a lot of back and forth, and just making sure that everything is covered before we even head over there. Okay. So it was a lot of checking and double checking. We had to load up from Daytona to drive over. I took a lot of things there. And Vince has a very large, well, he has 2 large kitchens. So it's, but making sure that you have the things that you need to get the job done. That was the most important thing.
Well, and mention 2 other questions. When you were mentioning that dinner and having to have the right people with you, as a chef, either when working for someone else or your own business, could you talk about what things do you look for in employees and people that you would potentially hire? What are you looking for? Because this might help other people, whether you're talking about culinary skills or other aspects. What do you look for in those people that you want to work for you?
Well, for me, I'm definitely looking for culinary skills. I'm looking for a, your background, as far as, you have an experience. I mean, I hold 3 college degrees, but when I graduated from culinary school, I kind of had to start at the bottom and work my way up, because I had experience, but I didn't have a lot of experience working in a kitchen.
Okay.
Right. So it took some time to build that experience up. And in the degrees are probably only good as a chef if you're teaching. Right. But in the real world, they're looking for experience.
Okay.
So, for me as a chef, that's what I'm going to look at. I'm looking at the experience, where you've worked at, what type of job that you've had, what were some of your responsibilities? How long were you there? Okay. Did you get fired? Did you, these are the questions that I'm going to ask.
Okay.
Did you move up the ranks? Are you prompt? I mean, not prompt, but do you get to work on time? Those are big things. And granted, you can sit here and say, yes, I'm getting to work, but I'm going to see a pattern. If I hire you and I see there's a pattern there, you're not, you're clocking in late all the time. You're turning up late. You're calling in, hey, I'm running late. Then you may have a problem with getting to work on time. So those are some of the things that I look at when I'm, looking to hire individuals.
Okay. That's going to help some people, some potential employers and employees as well.
Right. And granted, you will, like, for me, I mean, yes, I'm going to look at your experience, but I also know that you have some people that, they're just looking for a chance, an opportunity. They may not have all the experience, but they're willing to learn. And I think if you're open to that, that we can really do some things.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And my last question, I guess. So you touched on it some before. So what's going on with you currently as far as in your culinary world, and what things do you see for the future for Chef Mallory?
For me right now, I so about a year ago, Bethune-Cookman and their hospitality management program kind of shut down. They were looking to reorganize that department in regards to hospitality, and COVID really hurt, the mindset when it came to the culinary part. As you recall, during the pandemic, a lot of places shut down. I had students that were, ready for jobs, had graduated, were ready to work. And when the pandemic hit, they didn't have a job because there's no restaurants open, and they didn't know at that time when, anything was going to materialize. So a lot of those people, they went into different fields, different directions. So they made a decision to eliminate the culinary side and come in with, the AI and a lot of the business courses. And, of course, I was not happy with that. But at the same time, I'm thinking, well, I've always had the catering business. It's always been part-time for me. I've always had another job with it. But I'm like, this is my opportunity to go, full-time with this and to see if it works. Because if I don't do it now, I may never do it. I've always worked for other people. I've had an opportunity to work for a lot of prominent families here, locally, the Carters, the France family, so, doing with the France family, doing, events on the track along with at their home also. So
Okay.
I've had that experience. But with my business right now, I just, back in February, I purchased a catering business here locally. And so, with that came the building along with, a van and, a lot of other things. So
Okay.
I was able to, go ahead and incorporate, my stuff along with that and then push forward. So this has been this, I've had a lot of, things go on, but far as from a business standpoint, this year has been a great year for us. We've been as busy as we've ever been.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. I did 5 weddings this year, which is unheard of.
Mm.
Far as for me. So, along with all the other events that we've done, this year. So I'm excited for, what's to come. We're doing, along with the catering events, I also do meal prep. I'm also setting up a virtual kitchen, which people will be able to go online and take a look at whatever the menu is and place orders and order food and, be able to come and pick it up. So that's kind of the direction where I'm going right now, and just trying to, I want to utilize the building as much as possible, get the most out of it, but also, just, doing some things that are different that, other people aren't doing. Because from a creative standpoint, I'm always, online, I think this is a great time. I don't know, early on, it's kind of hard to find a lot of information. That's not an
Yeah.
excuse. You can go online and you can find anything you want, at a touch of a button. So, I can continue to stay current with whatever the new trends are, and incorporate that into the catering, and anything else that, I may see that, I think that we can make a mark on. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great place. And you're echoing something that I've heard quite a few other guests say, which was that the shutdown and the negatives of COVID in some ways helped jumpstart them into their own thing. And it worked a good thing for their future in that roundabout way.
Yes, definitely.
Well, I appreciate your time, Chef. You said a lot of things that just not only on the culinary side, but the life side, the business side, and so many other things that it's going to be a help to the people who see this. And I really appreciate it.
Well, I hope so. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity today.
Absolutely.